I'd also like to encourage our audience to please engage in the chat box so that the speaker knows that you're following, you understand the concept, if something agrees with you, and so on. Okay, moving on to our next speaker. Regina, if you can please unmute yourself and turn on your video. And I'm going to stop spotlighting Nathaniel now. Regina, if you can please turn on your video, or unmute yourself, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I think I've done that.
Okay, great. We can see you. Hello, are you ready?
Yeah, hello.
Nice. So I'm going to hand
good
it
to be here.
over. Nice. I'm going to hand it over to you. So you know what the time is. Go ahead.
Okay. So hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Regina Wamaka Mechi. I'm happy to be here. I am happy to use this opportunity to share my experience with you with regards to the what to expect upon being invited for graduate studies interview. So I have just 20 minutes with you, so I'm going to start right away. I prepared a slide, and it's just 2 slides, just to make things easy for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So can you all see my screen?
It's loading.
Yes, I can see it, yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing much, but just to make it easy for myself. So I know there are so many other topics that need to be handled even before this graduate school interview, but just know that you'll get the opportunity to listen to other speakers with regards to the other aspects of those seminar. But for now, I'm going to, for people who already obtained admission and then are waiting for the interview. So during my time, because we're advised to personalize this because we all have different experiences, the interviews were based on, number one, what you have in your CV, what you have in your SOP, because before they invite you, they already read your statement of purpose, they read your CV or resume, and they also read some of the things you filled during the application, because some schools, they have they request that you also fill some other information about yourself, apart from the statement of purpose and the CV. So, but I attended 5 interviews in different schools during my time. So I gathered experience from different schools. So, but the crux of the whole issue is that they have the same pattern. Most times it's just about, what do you have in your CV? What do you have in your statement of purpose? What did you tell us? Who did you tell us that you were in the information you filled during the application? And then they also use the opportunity to also ask questions that were not provided in any of these documents that I stated. So the question you need to ask yourself if you're going in for any interview is, do I know what is in my statement of purpose? I know we advise people to write their statement of purpose themselves, and the statement of purpose is structured in such a way that what is in the statement of purpose is actually what they need to know when you speak to them. So the difference is that in the statement of purpose is written, but in the interview, you are now the one selling yourself. So if I know what is in my statement of purpose, it will be easy for me to sell myself. So the advice is, if you did not write your statement of purpose yourself, which is not what we advise that you write yourself, because you have to know what you're going in for. The advice is, read your statement of purpose. So some statements of purpose, depending on your field, majority is about research experience. So if you're writing the research experience, you should know it very well, because they will read it and they will ask you questions. Tell me about, I read your statement of purpose and I saw that you did so experiments or so research. Can you tell me more about this research? Or I read your statement of purpose and I see that you used this particular method. For example, when I interviewed, I wrote that I used SPSS. I have been talking, I don't even know if people are hearing me.
We can hear you, can hear you.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
I hear you, man. Loud and clear. I hear you.
All right. Okay. So let me go ahead. So during my time, I wrote that I utilized a particular software, SPSS, to analyze the data that the research that I conducted with my professor in UNM. And one of the schools, Van Andel Institute, Michigan, they asked me to describe how this SPSS works. And to be honest, this analysis, I didn't do it myself. It was my professor who did this analysis, but we actually used the tool. So what I did was I told them, hey, we did this analysis, but it was my professor who did majority of the analysis. And what I did was to interpret the data after the analysis. But I also know another software, which I'm currently using to do molecular modeling studies. And they gave me the opportunity to explain this other software. So why am I sharing this experience? If I had known beforehand that they would ask me every damn thing in my statement of purpose, I'll probably go to learn the SPSS very well, because I never knew. I thought they were just going to ask me about the experiment, but they went ahead to ask me about the software I used to analyze my data. So you have to learn everything in your statement. If you don't understand what is written in your statement and you know that you will not be able to defend it, don't put it, so that you don't shoot yourself on the leg. Then the second one is, do I know what I have in my CV? I know these days people try to package themselves very well. So sometimes they put even things that they didn't do. Some people, they just see people who want to publish a work and then they go ahead and say, add my name, add my name. Add my name, you see one person having 6 publications, but the person don't even know anything in any of these publications. So whatever you're putting in your CV, make sure you know it. If you're putting any research experience, make sure you know it. If you did not play any role in that research experience, and you wrote in your statement that you played a role, just be aware that you might be asked to discuss the role you played. So you should make sure that what you have in your CV is what you know. If you said you attended a conference, so my experience too, I attended one conference, one virtual conference when I was in Nigeria, but the conference held in the US, it was hybrid, virtual and in person. So this is annual biomedical conference for minority students, APCAM. That's the abbreviation. And then I also attended another conference, SACNAT, the Society for Advancement of Chicanos and Native Americans in STEM. Although I was in Nigeria, but I got to know about this conference and I applied and I attended. And then in my SOP, I wrote that I attended this conference. And in one of the conferences, I presented. Now in my CV, I also wrote that I attended these conferences. And so almost all the interviews, the 5 interviews I attended, I was asked questions about this conference, my experience in the conference, and knowing that as a graduate student, you also get to attend conferences. So in one of the interviews, I was asked to discuss my experience in the conferences and if I think it's something I would want to also go attend in the future. So because I attended this conference, I was able to share my experience. So I was not stuttering because, when you're telling lies, that's when you stammer. So, but let's say I didn't attend this conference and I wasn't told I was going to ask to discuss about this conference, then it would have been a problem for me. But because I attended this conference, even though I never knew I was going to be asked to discuss about the conference I attended, I was able to discuss about this conference. And so I shared my experience with them about this conference. So the essence is they want to be sure that you did not just put all the information in your CV. They want to be sure that for everything you have written in your CV, it had an impact on you. And you learned something from it. They just want to see you as a person. Oh, who is this person that we are talking to now? Not who is this person that we have his or her record written in a book. And so for interviews, you are competing with so many people. You've passed the first stage, which is application, and you've been invited. Interview is the second stage. And the truth is that some people, when they get invited, they think they have arrived. They think, oh, for them to invite me, I'm going in. To be honest, I know someone, although he's lucky now to be in Alabama, but he got invited by 4 schools. 4 schools. The 4 schools turned him down. It was later, one of the schools that never invited him, it was a professor that he reached out to, that now later sent him an email. Hey, when you reached out to me, I never had the funding, but now I have funding. Are you still interested in my lab? That was how he got admission. So this is to tell you that the interview is very important. So he was invited by 4 schools, but none of the schools gave him admission. I also know someone in this current cohort got invited by 3 schools, and the 3 schools sent him rejection letters. So sometimes when they invite you, they just want to see if you'll be able to convince them to take you. Some people, from what they submitted, from their CV, their statement of purpose, they already say, woo, we're taking this person. While for some persons, they still want to know if they will take you. So the interview is an opportunity for you to defend yourself. So apart from knowing what you have in your statement of purpose, apart from knowing what you have in your CV, do you know yourself? Now, the first question most schools ask is, tell me about yourself. Are you able to tell them about yourself without making them feel that you memorized information about yourself? So I have interviewed so many people, these people that are coming in by August. And so some of them, when I interview them, they sit so stiff, rigid, they don't smile. And then I tell them, you have to smile. You have to tell them that you are someone that they can work with, because if you're doing wet lab research or even dry lab research, you always be in contact with other students and your PI, your professor. So you have to tell them that you're cheerful enough to be able to stay with them for 4 years or 5 years or 2 years, as the case may be, if you're going for masters. So as they're interviewing you, they don't just want to know if you're intelligent. They also want to know if you're a team player. They also want to know if you're cheerful. They also want to know if you're someone who is a learner. So they are reading your body language. So you have to tell them who you are by the words, your body language, your eye contact. Don't show them that you're timid, or don't show them that you're scared, don't show them that you're too proud, don't show them that, be yourself. So sometimes when I tell people, when you're interviewing, if you know yourself that you're someone who is so quiet and people will think you don't know anything, train, practice to be lively. Practice to be lively. Yes. So you have to know yourself very well. Then, if you know yourself very well and they ask you, tell me about yourself. Some people make that mistake. When they tell them, tell me about yourself, they go to tell about their achievements. Tell me about yourself. You can add your achievement, but briefly, because those achievements are already in your CV. And they will still ask you more questions. So tell me briefly about yourself. So you can introduce yourself, your name, the school you attended, what you're currently doing, and what you like, maybe any sports activity or any event you like, just briefly about yourself. And while you're doing it, put a smiling face and don't tell them you rehearsed what you're saying. So let me tell you an experience about when the interview I did with University of Massachusetts. Even though I'm in Pennsylvania State University, I didn't choose the school, but I got into the school, University of Massachusetts Medical School, Worcester. So I had a problem with the network when I interviewed with the school. But because I wasn't, seated like this talking, I got into that school because the 3 professors that interviewed me, I had network issues. But what they kept telling me is, we can see that you're trying to explain yourself. We can see that you know what you're saying, but it's unfortunate that the network is really disrupting us. Why were they saying we can see? Because I was just like I'm talking now, you can see that I'm lively. But if I had just I won't impress them, even though the network wanted to deal with me that day. In fact, I told myself my village people, but God would not allow them. But I succeeded because I was able to show them that I'm trying my best to answer their question, but the network was the problem. They were seeing it from my body language. They were seeing it from my gestures. So now the second to the last point that I had here is, did I contact any professor? Some people contact professors and the professor guaranteed them that, hey, I'm going to take you. And then later, the professors don't get back to them because sometimes the decision can be professor by professor basis, depending on the program. Sometimes the decision can be a departmental. For example, biomedical science here, the professor that I'm currently rotating in her lab, she wanted a student. She interviewed a student. The student has research experience that she wants. But do you know that this student didn't get admission into Penn State? Just this current admission now. And she was angry. Why didn't they take this student? The student did have master's in Johns Hopkins. So sometimes if the program is not convinced enough to take you, they might not take even when you have reached out to a professor. Then for some schools that are professor based, like if a professor say, hey, I'm going for this student, just know that you're going in. Some schools are like that, some programs are like that. For such programs, do you know this professor very well? Because if a professor has given you assurance that I'm going to take you and during an interview, you don't even show this professor that, hey, I've read through your records, I've gone to your website, I've seen that you published 1 or 2 works. And then there are other students who are able to show this professor that they are enthusiastic about the professor's research. This professor will definitely go for those ones. So you don't relax and say, oh, because he has given me assurance that he's going to take me, therefore I should go ahead and misbehave. So you have to learn about this professor. You have to learn about the professor's research. And sorry, I need to check the chat. My time is almost up. Okay, so the last thing I have here is 5 more minutes. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Okay.
So then the last thing I have here is, do I know about the program I applied to? Okay, so I interviewed with University of Minnesota, and I realized that I didn't do my background work enough for that school. So I was the only African that they invited for that interview. Then the remaining were Indians and Chinese, Asians, and then Americans. So the Indians, I realized that they did their background work. The Chinese people, they did their background work about University of Minnesota. And so they were able to explain why they liked the school. This was during we have this before the breakout session. So you see people talking about their different experience, why they chose this school before we now go separate rooms for the one-on-one interview. They were more active than I was. And I already did my first interview with University of Massachusetts, and I got into University of Massachusetts. I think that was why I was now nonchalant about the University of Minnesota. So I didn't prepare well. So at the end, Minnesota offered me masters and say, hey, we know the program is too competitive if you can go for our masters. And I told them, hey, I already got into Massachusetts, but I knew it was my fault because I was not active in that interview. I didn't do my background research about this because I had nothing to talk much about when others were talking. And another thing I want to let you know about interviews is that the students they invite also contribute to, okay, like we attended interview program for Penn State and they said we should give our experience, whether we like a particular student or not. And people were like, oh, I think this person is good, he's lively. And then the other people were like, I think this person is shy, oh, sorry, my time is up, but in summary, do your background studies well about your SOP, your CV, the school, and the professor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Regina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.